we talked last time about the trash because of the wind, gale and Dale.
Yes.
I don't know if we can send an email out just to remind people, when they're leaving to work, get a glance around the yard.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And when we see it, we try to email homeowners and include the photo of where we saw the trash on their lot. It's been like plastic bags blown into a tree.
It's
So I don't
something,
want to write like a letter to owners about that. So if we have the email address, we email them. If not, we send a little postcard to check around. But I can do, an email from the website.
I have a question on that.
one question.
Go ahead.
This is to you guys. Has anybody heard a motorcycle screaming down the road on the weekends? No?
Now, but we both have motorcycles, so.
No.
No, it's more of a dirt bike. Somebody's cruising through the neighborhood at pretty high speeds. That was it.
Which side of the subdivision?
Hayvale and, what was that? Hayvale and, no, it's
The other side.
That's it. See, I live there, I don't even know.
I actually hear a lot, but I'll go outside and it's from Moke's Mile behind us, not actually in our neighborhood.
No, this one was touring around our neighborhood. It was, not last weekend, but the weekend before last. And it was multiple times they were going back and forth. There's kids that live on that street, not a bunch. If somebody were to run a kid over, that would be really bad. And they're not supposed to go past 25 miles an hour anymore.
Courtney, I was just wondering what you found out about the weed control, the all-natural alternative?
Yes. So the one that I have that is environmentally friendly is Weed Tech. If you guys want to have him, we have until June. So he could come to a meeting and he could talk about his product and what he does. And he wrote an entire letter about his mixture and how it works with the weeds. It's all included here. As far as Wildcat, they specified what they would use, but I don't believe theirs is environmentally safe or friendly. But we can have both companies out to talk to owners and visit during one of the meetings.
That would be great, yeah.
Which one is the one that you said that you've had good success in other,
That is Weed Tech,
okay, you know what I'm gonna say, don't you? With the buffalo grass.
the buffalo grass. Yeah, they are
That's
great.
Weed Tech?
Yes,
You
this
said
one
you
is
had
Weed
really
Tech.
good success with
Yes.
the buffalo grass with them?
Yeah, they're great. They actually do a couple of properties in JD Ranch. They do the property on the corner of Lazy Jake and Wild Jesse. They have that circle in the middle of the natural area. Oh, nope, it's on Denver Dan and Wild Jesse, I'm sorry. So when you come on to Wild Jesse, it's on the right-hand side just before Denver Dan if you were going to Jumping Jojo. And they have the circle of the natural landscaping and it's surrounded by the gravel. Weed Tech does that property and it's always pristine.
I was gonna bring that up on a new business. Sorry about that. What I saw here was Weed Tech was 4.25 acres, and Wildcat was at 2.25 acres. And I don't know why there's that much difference between the two.
Yeah,
When they say they're doing the same areas.
I'm not sure.
yeah, that's a pretty big difference, and roughly, at least according by, Map My Walk, or whatever, it's about 5 miles to go, around the development on one side, and then the other side, it's 5 miles, which, an acre is 43, so 5 miles and 5,280 feet per acre. I came up with a totally different number than both of them.
For what it's worth, I have Wildcat and their pre-emergent is acting more like a fertilizer than anything else. So I'm gonna be canning those guys soon.
Okay.
And I know that I don't know if the person still lives in development, but I know that there was some people in the development that were very concerned about things being safe for the kids and pets. I know there was someone who had said that they had a child child that kept, when people would use different sprays, would get sick.
Yes, and they have since left the community. I do recall that, I don't have a comment on that one at this time.
But I'm just saying, I
Yeah.
think it is a concern for people
Yeah.
that that we maybe try to go with the environmental friendly.
Yeah,
I mean, at least for some,
Well, let's go with a thought of having them come in and
Okay.
explain their product.
yeah, absolutely.
Everybody has a little better view on it. New business, I missed a couple of meetings, so I don't know, but I don't know the couple here.
Hi, my name is John Collmore. This is my wife, Leticia. We've been in the neighborhood for a little over 4 years. This is our first meeting.
Oh, is it really?
Long overdue, we know it. We've been talking about it for a long time, and we finally just buckled down and came down. So hopefully you'll see us more, but this is our first meeting.
What
Randy
street you
Kennedy.
guys on?
We're on Wild Jesse.
Okay.
Yeah, right next door.
And you're with Platinum?
No, Wendy Palmer, I'm on Galloping D.
Oh, okay. And do you have any comment or anything, or like to offer?
No, I have something that somebody asked online about putting up a stop sign on Wild Jesse Way and Lazy Jake. We're concerned about people turning the corner too quickly when there's, and it is true, I actually take that route, and to the right, unless you deliberately stop and look, it's the way the road is, they're like right there when you see them. So with cars, dogs, people walking, kids going back and forth to school, there's a chance of a near miss on that.
We had stop signs and things of that nature at one point, didn't we?
Or a yield, I don't know.
The poles are up.
Yeah, if you're leaving from Wild Jesse to turn left or right on Lazy Jake.
Left going out.
Okay. I thought, yeah, definitely. I think that there was a stop sign at some point. We can look into replacing that.
That's somebody's decoration now.
You have any comment you'd like to offer, or any
No,
questions?
no, I don't think so. We're due to this, so we didn't know what was gonna be discussed and what wasn't. The weed control stuff, I like hearing about that. I like to get some more information on that because we use a company called Weedco. Very, very good. We've never had an issue with it, but if we can find something a little bit more friendly to the environment, we'd be all for that.
Okay. You have any comment tonight you'd like to offer?
No, just for welcome Tommy and Scott Holman. We live at the end of East Wild West Way.
This is for good
Yeah,
or right?
yeah, been in the neighborhood for a year. Just want to be part of our community and contribute. And I'm sorry we've missed so many meetings. We've been crazy busy, but
You guys are on the architectural committee too, aren't you?
yeah, I'm Tommy, by the way.
Hi, I'm Rick.
Well, we'd like to get more people here, so, appreciate you apologizing for not being here, but it's not like you're, unique. Not many people show up, and we'd like to get more people.
Yeah, definitely.
More feedback, whether we're doing anything right or wrong.
I do have something that I would like to bring to the board. I spoke with an owner today, 14225 North Jumping Jojo, who volunteered to organize a community yard sale. We have not had one since 2016. She offered to make the signs if we could put it in the bulletin board. She would like to do it April 21st, 2018, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I was looking for permission to send a postcard out to the community, if everybody is fine with that.
April 21st?
April 21st.
Is that enough time?
Yeah, it was.
Well, that's what I
that
was
my
just gonna
comment.
ask, because the last time they had a garage sale, I literally got it in the mail that afternoon of the
Yeah.
garage sale.
Yeah.
And so I think people need a couple weeks, so, I mean,
I can get these out tomorrow,
okay.
which would make it April 5th. And that time, the mail got mixed in with bulk. It took 13 days for the mail. It was postmarked, and we talked about it in the meeting. It took 13 days for the postcard to get to you guys. So in a situation like this, I take it to the post office myself and split it between the two boxes at Pantano, the blue outdoor boxes, so it doesn't get mixed in with bulk mail. And it gets here in about 2 days.
Okay. Any comment on that?
How is our residency listing for emails?
Mhm.
I mean, it seems that we could communicate a lot better with the residents by email.
I have a good amount. I have 116 email addresses. With that said, I do have a few duplicates. I have both husband and wife from a lot. I do not have contact info for every single lot, but it's at least 80%, if not more.
I think that would make more sense. and
Okay.
More expeditious to get it out to them.
Yeah.
What about on the website?
I can put it on the website. I was gonna do it tomorrow after our meeting notice, so I can do it on the pop-up when you first go into the website. I wanted to leave our meeting notice up until we've had the meeting. So tomorrow morning I will put the block party notice up on the pop-up when you first log into the website. I can email it and maybe mail a postcard to the people for whom we don't have email addresses.
Very good.
Now, how does that work for advertising? Does the HOA pay for the advertising?
No, she's already done it, and typically through Craigslist and stuff like that, it's free advertising.
I have a question about that. If we have a community yard sale and with our closed gate, how does that work for that day? Is the gate left open?
Yeah, we'll hold it open from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our gate company has the ability to do it remotely and schedule in advance.
Any
I
more?
have a question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This website, is it the HOA's website, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know there was one up before on it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I learn everything through the JD Ranch
Facebook.
Facebook.
Mhm.
So that's how I knew about the yard sale then. 'Cause
Okay.
they had the date on there.
Yeah,
So that's how I knew about the yard sale.
yeah, absolutely. We do not,
Support.
I don't want to say it that way. The association is not officially affiliated with the Facebook website because it is social media. You can get kind of sidetracked. We are not admin on that. There are homeowners who are admin on it and are kind enough to monitor that every day. As an HOA, it's not wise to get too involved in that aspect. We do have a JD Ranch website. I have some business cards on the back table. If you want to grab one, you can email me. I can email over all the information and get you guys logged in.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other new business? Greg?
I think we should have happy hour every Friday.
Good call.
Block happy hour at your house. There you go.
Well, we should have it here, and then maybe more people will show up.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think this sounds pretty.
I'm out of ideas now.
The other contract? All right. That's under here.
Oh, I put it in the packet. It has handwriting on the front.
See it?
It was right in front of the weed test. But I do have an extra copy. It's this one. There is page 1
I don't know about it either.
and page 2.
Oh, it's in this one. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was looking
No,
through the
it's
one
fine.
that you sent out last week.
It's fine. I have it
Okay,
right here.
so this
behind
was
that.
added since last
Yes,
week. Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
These, we're gonna have, the other two weed companies come in and give us a little seminar on what they have and what they use and how friendly it is environmentally. I was dissatisfied with the last spring we had. I thought it went through and it looked like it just did little spot checks here and there. And I think that as a community, we deserve a little bit better than that. Not saying he's not welcome to bid on it again, but I think the coverage was.
At the last meeting, we discussed, and there was actually an issue. He harmed somebody's pet because he sprayed in high winds, so we did not invite him back.
Right.
Okay, all right.
He was doing it from the truck, from the seat, and it was blowing up into the air at 30-mile-plus-hour wind.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I missed the last meeting, so I wasn't aware of that. What I would like to see as a board though, maybe a little more communication about concerns that get addressed at Platinum.
Okay.
We're aware of it maybe a little bit before the meetings.
Okay.
I mean, as they occur. So, because I've been asking a few questions and I had no idea there was even an issue going on. at least it would keep us kind of up to date on a lot of things.
Okay. I did include the discussion about the pre-emergent in the minutes, and I sent those over. In addition, a lot of the concerns I'm hearing with you guys, as far as the pet, that was brought up at the last meeting, I didn't know before the meeting. And most of the concerns we receive are weed letters, payments, things of that nature. If there is something that is a concern, I typically put it on the agenda as new business if I'm made aware prior to sending out the board packet. And if it is something that requires board attention immediately, I send an email over. Other than that, I'm finding out as you guys are.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Anything else? Everybody's good? Comments?
I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
For the annual meeting, we have received 4 self-nominations. I have Rob Halberg, Ed Sant, Wendy Fogg Palmer, and Stephen Piper, I believe is how it's pronounced. So we have 2 positions available, 4 people running. Be sure to either attend the meeting in person or mail out your ballot. Ballots will go out next Wednesday. That allows 3 weeks for owners to fill them out and return them, but if you are able to attend in person, I recommend doing so. That's all I have. Did you have something?
Yeah, we got Courtney off guard the other day, getting lunch, and had questions about how to amend some of the rules, some of the guidelines in here. Some of the things like parking an RV at the house. When you take a trip, it takes a week to get ready for it. Take the trip, get back. It takes a week to clean the RV, get back to storage. And one of the things we wanted to check on was to amend the rules where you can park the RV at the house, as long as it's behind the wall. Most RVs are taller than the wall. I think ours is 13.5 tall. And one of the ways that she explained it to us briefly was that, the ballot or the decision would be pushed out to all the owners. Needed a 75% thumbs up rate on this. For people to say, yeah, it's a good idea. And then we could amend the rules within the bylaws. I wanted to see about taking the different approach because most people are inherently lazy. They have to check the mail, take the time to read it, make a decision, walk back out and put it in the mailbox. It takes a little bit of time. If we got the other 25% that were objecting to it, take the different approach, get the objections versus the approvals.
Just prior to you moving in, we went through quite a battle with the amendment changes, somewhat in the direction that you're referring to. It did get very hard. I mean, there was a lot of controversy on both sides of the issue. I think a lot of people did a lot of work into it, but it really died at the base.
Okay.
Amendment changes are really, really tough. Really tough. I mean, you want to try it or give some thought, but that's one of the toughest things in the industry to change in an HOA.
Right.
So we talk about permanent or temporary?
No, so actually I have a question for you, Greg, because you've been on the committee for a while, I'm guessing. I know in the rules it says that we can, if it's sufficient, like before we actually bought the house, I called Clapham and I asked questions because, we do have an active lifestyle. We had an RV and now we have a toy hauler and and it says that if it's screened and it's approved by the art committee, and now being on the art committee, I kind of know what an uphill battle that is. Have you guys ever approved an RV or toy hauler screening? Is it because nobody has submitted it, or you guys have just turned them all down?
Because we have to take into consideration all the residents around your property. Personally, myself, I wouldn't want to look at an RV on a daily basis. I understand you got a week to get it ready and a week to download it. Temporary, I don't see a problem with that. I'll give you an example, I have a neighbor right now that's got a car parked in their backyard that's gonna be addressed soon. If it were one of those compressed campers, you couldn't see it over the fence, that would be one thing. But it states very clearly in the HOA guidelines that they should have told you this when you bought the house.
No, we did, but it also states in there that it has to be screened, and I think it says attractively that it gives you like room, but it is the ultimate ARC approval, and now being on there and seeing, I know that,
What you'll find with the HOA guidelines, or the ARC guidelines, it's very contradictory. One side may say, yeah, you screen it, and the other side says no RVs whatsoever.
Are you talking about the CCNRs or
Yeah.
some guidelines?
The CCRs.
and talking to a neighbor today, I understand that it was a 2-year controversy, whether it was going to be like detached garages were gonna be allowed, that took 2 years.
So I'll back it up a little. There was a submittal for a 2,200 square foot detached garage by a home in the middle of the community. The surrounding homeowners were upset because said garage was going to be rather tall, block views, so on and so forth. So those homeowners started figuring out a way to kind of counteract something of that nature. It was going to be as big as a house. It was a huge garage. So that there was a lot of tension within the community. For 2 years, the board tried to amend your documents. Section 8.1 of your CCNRs expresses specifically no, and although the developer did build detached garages, casitas, 8.1 of your CCNR says that there are no other structures allowed on your lot aside from your home and your attached garage. Per the county, everything's defined as a structure, unfortunately. Pools, play structures, walls. Thankfully, your CCNRs have a section about walls. Therefore, you can put up a wall without worrying about it. You still have to submit. So back to the garage. This was a 2-year process. We tried amending with the ballots, gaining the 75% approval. We did not even get 45%. Following that, we tried using an easier consent process. That one stayed open for about 23, 24 months. It was about 2 years for that one alone. With the consent process, again, we had under 50%. And we were, because we were using this certain process, it was perpetual. So we could continue adding, and we still had under 50%. So that was overturned once it had been roughly a year since receiving no consent. We had directors going door to door, but there were both sides. Both sides of the issue were going door to door and publicizing and saying this is the reason why this shouldn't exist in the community. This is wide open spaces. We don't want our views blocked. It was advertised as views in wide open spaces. And then there's the other side, well, I bought multiple acres because I want to store my toys. So the solution and what would be considered as attractive screening per the architectural design guidelines while also staying in line with your CCNRs would be an attached RV garage. We did have somebody build an attached pool house, and that was approved because it was attached, it fit well with the home, it added to the square footage of the home. It wasn't an additional monstrosity on the lot. So the architectural committee felt comfortable approving that. And it was a pretty good size. But there are definitely two sides to the community. One side does not want huge structures. And one side wants additional structures, garages. And then there's the people in the middle who are like, well, what about like a 400 square foot garage? But in order to approve anything of that nature detached, regardless of what the builder put in, we have to amend your documents. We have had 3 separate tries and never made it more than 50%. And this does include door to door. So I don't really know a solution. Amendment is tough. I've seen it work one time. I've done this for 6 years. We manage about 120 communities, all of which have CCNRs and regulations. But you know, maybe when people call, we do tell them RVs are not able to be parked. You can, it does say in your design guidelines, they can be attractively screened. We don't give any suggestions as to how to screen that. We're not authorized.
You did tell me all that.
Yeah.
That was very clear, but that it was,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just
and
wanna know if it's possible, but we're stubborn and you don't know until you try, so.
yeah, and if you guys do try, Platinum works at the pleasure of the board of directors, but we are also here to serve all owners. I can explain the process to you for amendment in detail. We would have to schedule a meeting. We would have to sit and go through each of your documents. I'd have to point out specific verbiage, and that would take me a while to collect. It's been roughly 2 years since I've had this conversation with anybody.
Okay, well, this is like a fact-finding mission for us. Thank
Yeah.
you, appreciate it.
It was brutal trying to get that approval from us.
That's what we're starting to understand.
Yeah.
I do have one more question, and actually, Marty, this is for you.
Yeah.
This is my curiosity. Can I ask, why are you videotaping the meeting? Is this for the website, or?
It's for the Facebook and the Nextdoor website for people in the community that can't come in and don't make it to the meeting to know what's going on.
Oh, okay. Well, they should come.
Not everybody can make it. There's nurses that work 12-hour shifts, 7A to 7P. There's a lot of people around in the community that have to travel back and forth from work Monday through Friday. They only come home on the weekends.
No, I understand. That's a good
Yeah.
service you're doing.
I do have a question now. Wasn't there another thing about a carport and that's a separate structure, so I don't understand.
That was approved via variance. And that was,
There's a section in the CCNRs that allows a variance for health, safety, or welfare. That the ARC at that time did go through legal, and it is open to interpretation. The carport was approved, and once an approval is granted, regardless of whether it goes with your documents or not, it cannot be rescinded. The guidelines for that carport was that it always has to be in good condition. It does have to be screened. If you look, there are plants around his carport. They do come up front. They're relatively new. They're about a year old. And it can only be utilized for parking. Nothing can be stored in that carport. Those were the guidelines that the ARC chose to follow, and it was an initial denial, and the homeowner appealed the denial. And it was reviewed once again, and via variance for health, safety, and welfare for this particular homeowner, the additional parking was approved.
I don't personally have a problem with it at all. I think it looks fine. But my question is why it seems to be okay in some situations and not others, and then there's the precedent that other people do have separate structures, and then it comes in and says to another, you can't. That's a very variable thing, and I don't really understand.
To set precedents, it would have to be 80% of the community.
Okay.
A good example of a precedent set in JD Ranch is walls, exterior walls, or pools. There are a number of pools in the community, enough so that they can forego being defined as a structure and being denied. As far as the variance process, when I believe it was roughly a year ago, maybe less, it is in the minutes which are on the website, this board did away with the variance process for structures and architectural submittals. If it's something that is considered common, like a play structure, pool, something of that nature, it does not have to go through the variance process, although it's technically considered a structure, because there are so many here in the community. If it's something that is not common, for example, detached garages, 80% of the community does not have that. So that would not be considered a precedent. And the variance process was done away with. That was a policy, a board of directors policy. that was instituted, that was done away with. Therefore, we no longer follow that process.
Can that be reinstituted with maybe a situation where it's not just a minority approval, but a majority approval, like getting, say, instead of, the board and architectural review, but actually having a certain percentage of homeowners agreeing to it too, or
It
weighing
would
in
have
on
to
it?
be the 75% to amend your documents, unfortunately.
But, so you did away with the contract
policy.
the policy without a 75% approval,
Mm-hmm.
but to put it back on, you would need a 75% approval, is that what I hear?
This board interprets the CCNRs as they are, essentially, whereas the other board interpreted them differently. In both situations, legal counsel has said you're not wrong. It's not written yes or no. It's open to interpretation. Therefore, one board interpreted this way. This current board does not interpret it that way. Therefore, they won't institute a policy to add additional structures such as detached garages, carports, things of that nature, and it comes down to a simple majority vote that was taken